What element of music history did you focus on to create Moretti, and what was it about that history that fit his particular popularity?
You know, for like pop songs in pop history, you don't have to go that far back. So
Right.
I'm 36. I don't really remember. I'm not gonna front like I know what was happening in the 90s, but I don't really remember.
Sure.
Michael Jackson's Super Bowl performance. Like I don't have like a personal memory of it, but it's great. It's such a fun era, mid 80s to mid 90s in music, from the clothes to the characters to the the beefs with the musicians and all those things. So we really like understood that, and then Niall in particular, he was making some of the biggest records on the planet at that time. So he had a very specific understanding. He had the personal experience. I produced Let's Dance, and I produced, or Madonna, like a Virgin.
Right.
So like when I could text him and be like, what would that be like, or whatever. And he's, not only was he in the room, he was the coolest guy in the room,
Cool. So much of the story is about the cult of fan worship. What did you study about that cult and cults in general that you definitely wanted to expand upon in the story?
Power dynamics for sure. I'm inherently fascinated by the honeymoon period of a cult.
Interesting.
When the thing is like when things are good, the charisma, the shiny thing that lures you into the trap. Mm-hmm. And when I would study these different religions, that was so obvious, like where the appeal comes from. Yeah. And it's like, oh, okay, and this time and place, and everyone was, things were so downtrodden in Ireland at this time, and so then you see like the appeal. And the reason I picked a pop musician is that I wanted it to feel good, because I think so often those that honeymoon period, that feeling, it just feels good. Yeah. And that's the thing that lures you in.
So you had veteran John Malkovich portraying a different type of personality, and the up-and-coming A.O. Edebiri communicating a persona that expands her range. What did you find similar in their approach to creating character, and what was distinctly different?
Similar, they both rehearse. They both, they would run lines together, and they come immensely prepared. Both of them treat their craft, one like it's a craft, but two like seasoned veterans, Mm-hmm. And they have an immense amount of respect for directors. They have an immense amount of respect for this gift that we get to make movies. And differences, it's not a ton. I mean, I feel like, there's not a ton of differences. Okay. Both of them surprise me constantly, and they set out to surprise you, and both of them also would surprise me in the edit. There would be something that I missed while we were shooting.
Right.
And then I'll look and I'm like, oh wow, Io's like off doing this other very interesting thing. And some of those, like, you're like, that's more interesting than what we were doing. I want to do that. I want to go on that journey with her. And there are things that you kind of wish you caught while you were shooting, because maybe that would have dictated the direction that you would have taken in the moment. But no, I just think that they're two of the greats. They're obviously at different points of their careers, but the greats are the greats. They play the game the same way.
And it's so interesting to get that spectrum, because I was gobsmacked by that casting.
Thank you.
Modern music personality worship is decidedly different than what is portrayed through Moretti. in the sense of the album statement today. You know, we have a different tenor, more singles oriented. And the mystery of pop stars have been stripped from them in the digital age. What elements of the modern music sensibility do we find in Opus, in the film?
You know, I think today in pop music, just because it's so competitive for people's attention,
Right.
you see a lot of pop stars, big musicians. They adopt spectacle in a way that like is at an all-time high. Beyonce is one of the greatest artists in history, and she's a master of spectacle. She does a 30-minute music video of where it's this spanning, big scale, beautiful thing, or
Right.
when she does Coachella, it's the grandest, most thoughtful precision like we've never seen before. And so I don't know. The Weeknd is the same. I love Billie Eilish. I think her videos are incredible. But like, look at Sabrina Carpenter. She went on a run with these incredible cinematic music videos, and I just think that right now, like, they get spectacle, and Moretti would love that.
Interesting. Yeah, that's good. What did you learn about the process of modern filmmaking and creating the ramp in which Opus launched? And what was the key point in that process that assured the film would be made? Talk about modern.
Yeah. I don't know if for a filmmaker, I don't know if at the core, the like nucleus of the thing you need is different now than it has been.
Okay.
I think the thing you need is a film that you want to make more than you want anything else in your life. And I think that's the same thing that Oscar Micheaux had. I think it's the same thing that John Ford had. I think it's the same thing that Stanley Kubrick had. I think it's the same thing that Gina Prince Braithwaite had. And I had that for this movie.
Yeah, you're right. The end of your film was a quiet but chilling philosophical and psychological element versus a louder action that occurred earlier in the story. Without spoilers, of course, what were you expressing about the quiet time before the next storm in the world of a man like Moretti?
Yeah.
So I loved your ending, by the way.
Thank you. My theory on endings, everybody has, a different thing they want. I look at endings a bit like how we call a graduation commencement.
Right.
And obviously, Latin root of the word, it means like the beginning of something. And for me, an ending should feel like the beginning of something, but it should feel like it like severely satisfying. And I hate unsatisfying endings.
Okay.
If you give me an hour and 43 minutes of your time, which is how long Opus is, then I feel like I owe you satisfaction. If you give me $20 or the movie theater $20, I feel like I owe you satisfaction. If you, so I wanted the ending to feel satisfying, but the conversation that I want you to have, if it feels finished, if it feels like I had the conversation for you, then you're not going to participate in it.
Right.
It feels complete.
Right.
And so I think it needs to feel, again, like a commencement, but when you walk across that stage after 5 years for me, if you walk across that stage, it feels like you successfully completed something, and it's just the beginning of whatever you learned.
That's exactly what it was. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you were an editor at GQ and included scenes of your fictional magazine, Opus. Since you work for a successful magazine in the last days in the value of human writing and photography, what do you predict about the future of information consumption by the digital audience?
I'm somebody, I believe in these kids, man. I think TikTok, youth culture, wherever they decide is the avenues in which they're going to learn and communicate. I believe in them. I just think that the younger generations, they're thoughtful, they're cool. I like the way they dress. They're weird. Every artist.
So you have optimism.
Every artist has their pessimistic side, but my pessimistic side is very rarely ever with young people, because I just think kids.
You're right.
The youth, they got it. You know, they just got it, and I think they're going to be really great filmmakers. I think TikTok and all these and things like Letterboxd, they are fanning a flame, and the best movies ever will be made by like these kids, I think.
Final question. Since this is your directorial debut, how did movies become the next natural step in your creative journey? And what advantages does that particular storytelling medium hold over other means of your expression?
Filmmaking checks every curiosity that I have. It scratches every itch. It exhausts me. And I think that the greatest gift in life for me is that feeling you have when you go home and it's finally quiet and you absolutely tortured yourself, busted your ass, did everything that you could on something that you love. Like, you worked as hard as you possibly could on something that you love. And that feeling, that moment, it's so deeply spiritual to me that it feels like a one-on-one, like a pat on the back from the creator herself.
This is Patrick McDonald for HollywoodChicago.com. Copyright 2025.